Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalron, and in this video I just kind of want to have more of a relaxed, very chill video because I've been really hammering down the first impression videos. I've been enjoying the PvP aspect, and I've been enjoying the PvP videos that I've been able to make on the channel as of recent, especially the ones where the world PvP and even stream it, and that has been honest joy. That has been the vacation. The rest of them have been class videos where I give you my first impressions, and those videos are fun to work on, but I felt like it was almost like a duty of some sort for me to make them, because a lot of people wonder what classes are like, and I have a general impression of just about every single class in the game, with the rogues being the one I had the most time that I played with. So I've been grinding, I've been really busy. So in this video I kind of just wanted to sit back and talk about something that I think would be interesting for you guys. I personally feel that BFA, compared to going from Legion to BFA, it doesn't feel like even the same game. I absolutely like what I see with BFA, but I will stay by this. I don't think we're even playing the same World of Warcraft. The whole game, the experience from quests to classes, just overall doesn't even feel like the same WoW. It feels like a brand new version of WoW, or some kind of an older offshoot version of WoW that I've never played, but I got to try again. If any of you tried playing on a private server, and of course I never tried playing private server, never would it, oh Blizzard, I would never, I would never, but if you ever tried, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, when you're just going from what the actual expansion is, the retail version, to vanilla, or BC, or Wrath, and wow, things feel different. It's the same look, it's the same code, and things are more or less familiar, but the general guts of the game is what is very different. And I feel like that's what we're getting in BFA. The reason I think it's a good time to talk about this video is because I've been getting a lot of questions of people asking me, so does it feel good? So is this great? So should I get BFA? So is BFA worth getting, or is it not worth getting? And a lot of people are getting conflicting opinions. All I'm trying to do is, for the most part, is just give my first impression of what I thought of certain classes. You get to decide what you want to get out of it. But some people have been asking me, what do I think of BFA? Is it worth playing? I will say this off the bat, I'm somebody who will probably always play World of Warcraft. Remember with the downturn that we had back in Warlords of Draenor, where we got down to 4.5 million subs at its lowest? I will be one of those guys. There's always going to be a staple number of people that will always play WoW. Some people will play another game that's fun and will come back as soon as the new expansion's out, and they'll keep playing until it gets boring. I'm somebody who likes this game so much, I'll probably continue playing it, whether it's a fun expansion like Mists of Pandaria, or when I try playing Cataclysm. I know not the best expansions. A lot of people will probably point to Wrath, BC, Vanilla. I never played back then. But for me, I thought MoP was a cool expansion, Cataclysm was pretty cool, WoD was atrocious, and Legion has been a top-notch out of all the expansions so far, in terms of just the quantity of content I've been able to do. But as I'm somebody who has the opportunity to play on the beta and live back and forth, I honestly sometimes feel that I would just rather just stick to one. I cannot wait for Legion to be over just so I don't have to swap between Legion and BFA and Legion and BFA and Legion and BFA, because the games just feel so different. If anybody ever tried comparing Legion retail to vanilla, I don't think you could. And let's be honest, you could say both of them have orcs, both of them have gnomes, both of them have night elves, quests, dungeons, raids, healing classes, tanking classes, DPS trifecta, the whole shindig, Orgrimmar Storm. You could say that, as I did before, and you'll be making a mistake. Both of those games are very familiar. One is where the roots came from, and the other is where we're at now, but you can't really compare them against one another. If anything, I would even go as far as compare them as to different MMOs, because it goes back to the topic of the guts of the MMO. That's what's important, and the guts of, let's say, Vanilla and Legion are just so different, you can't call them the same games. You can call them very similar, but I personally wouldn't call them the same games. And I feel like this similar kind of thing we're having with Legion and BFA. I'm not saying that BFA is just as good as Vanilla, I'm just saying it is so different from Legion into BFA that it's even jarring for a little bit. And there's a lot to cover. There's class changes, there's GCD, which I want to talk about that separately, mostly about GCD. I want to talk about how does it feel from DPS, healer, tank perspective, ranged, melee, whatever. That's going to be a separate video on its own. But there's a lot of things happening in BFA. Overall, I would say it feels like the Blizzard philosophy has been, since Legion, to start rolling things back. It felt that with Mists of Pandaria and then down into, and I really want to emphasize down into Warlords of Draenor, I felt like the game was becoming more casual friendly. There was less to do. They were taking out all these quote-unquote annoying things or complex things. Classes were being simplified, and there was absolutely nothing to do besides the Facebook game that was the Garrison. It felt like your whole idea of dailies just went away. And I played with that type of game. I didn't try to go against the grain. I just went, oh, what's my Garrison? Let me do my Garrison stuff. Now I guess I get to go PvP or run a dungeon or farm Pexis crystals, even though I didn't really spend them on anything. So you're going from an expansion like Warlords of Draenor, where a lot of people would say it's a pretty bad expansion, there's nothing to do, towards Legion, where there's now all of a sudden so many things to do, all of a sudden so much different types of content, all of a sudden a brand new leveling system, all of a sudden so many of these new things coming in Legion. It feels like they were taking the game into more casual, more lethargic, more less exciting version, and then they just rolled it all back. They rolled it back with a decent story. I personally love the whole Surmar deal. They rolled it back with brand new questing, new way of doing world quests and daily quests, and even more of them if you wanted to. New types of PvE content from your original Dungeons and Raids to then harder difficult version of dungeons to a brand new PvP system to freshen things up, which was really good on paper. I mean, the game just went from kind of boring, kind of nothing to do, to now there's just everything you can do. You don't have to, but if you really want to advance, you really want to see your character succeed, you really want to get somewhere, here's a pathway, have fun at it. And I loved it. There was just so much to do, and there's still a lot to do in Legion. And that's the kind of thing we saw. It seems like it was a rollback of systems that weren't quite enjoyable. And to me, BFA, playing through it, feels like there's even more rollbacks to systems that were enjoyable that Blizzard is also now doing. Not only are we getting changes to health pools, which is something that other expansions have done, where numbers become a lot more meaningful and a lot easier to see and a lot more simplified. Then we're also getting Gcd changes, which is something that everything used to be on Gcd back in vanilla, even interrupts. So people have to stop the rotation just so they make sure they don't miss a kick. So a lot of that kind of stuff is coming back. Then you have a lot of the systems from Legion now being kind of pushed back. The RNG legendary system, nobody really liked that. That's been taken away. One of the things I noticed is big, that used to be way back in the other expansions, auto attacks used to be a lot more important. Like vanilla, most of your damage came from your auto attacks. Auto attacks are making a comeback for a lot of the melee. Now I know it's a very small thing, but it's funny to see how the expansions are almost rolling back to what other expansions have done in the past. And I feel like that's been the trend. I don't think they're rolling back just for the sake of, hey, let's reverse this bitch, just back into like 1985. I think what they're trying to do is roll it back to what used to work and trying to apply the aspects that used to work with some of the new modern things in order to make for a different type of game. And going from BFA into Legion, it feels like it's a whole nother game. When I'm swapping back and forth between beta and live, it just feels like I'm playing two separate games. And that's why I really want just to be one game at this point, just so I can have a focus on one or the other. And this goes beyond class changes, because I noticed this stuff not just with Outlaw Rogue. I noticed this with Red Pally, I noticed this a little bit with Mages, I noticed this a little bit with Hunters. Everything is either new, or it looks like there are some aspects of the old that are kind of starting to make their comeback little by little. And it's very exciting to be put together. And everything kind of seems to fit. I know that a lot of people talk about like the clunkiness of GCD, or maybe how certain classes and health pools and how they play in certain ability prunes or talent changes are just not enjoyable, or your favorite specialization might have gotten some changes and you didn't enjoy it, or a specialization you've been playing for a while now barely got any changes, so you're thinking it's going to be boring, so now you have to look for a new class. But with all these changes combined, it actually feels like it fits, like the puzzle box makes a picture. I think if you were to be in Legion and they started making all these changes that are happening in BFA in Legion, they just start slapping GCD to certain abilities, they just start making weird ass changes, they just take out your artifact weapon, and you're thinking, wow, how am I supposed to play the game? This feels clunky, this feels terrible. So when you play within Legion on retail WoW, when you play within Legion and you're doing all the things you do in Legion, the way that Legion was intended to be played, that feels whole, that feels complete. So when you're just taking these specific things that BFA is doing and trying to apply, or at least try to imagine these things into Legion, it just feels terrible. You haven't tried it, but you know that the idea of now an ability that you always use off GCD now being on GCD would just feel so crap. But when you hop on BFA and you've done a few quests and you've done a few dungeons and you kind of adjusted to how your class is supposed to play, all these changes kind of start to make sense. It almost makes you think, wow, why isn't the game like this? Because it fits for BFA. So that's why I feel like it's just not even the same game anymore. So I feel like with this in mind, if you're somebody who were not keen about BFA, not really sure, know this. The game is going to be completely different. There's no way you can really tell exactly how it's going to be. Well, you might have an idea, and yes, that idea might be realized, but how do you really know? Because I thought I knew, and I made all these videos about GCD. There are some things I still don't agree with GCD, but for example, GCD in BFA doesn't feel as terrible. If you were to include GCD in Legion, oh by god, that is the worst feeling in the world. You know what I mean? It's just there's too many changes that happen from one expansion to another, where you can't even take like a small aspect and try to fit it in your current field, in your current experience, because that won't be fair. You gotta experience the whole thing. You gotta dive deep in, butt ass naked, toes first, down up to your ankles, and just full body. Just dive right in, explore it, swim around in it, pick up a towel, dry off, and then think about what you think about it. You can't just have a sip of water and just be like, wow, this is terrible, this tastes like feet. No, you have to swim in the water that tastes like feet, just to really see what's it like. Is I guess the best way I can put it. Anyway, that's my video on BFA. I honestly feel like it feels like a whole nother expansion. It feels like a whole nother game. It feels like we're playing a whole different version of World of Warcraft. And I absolutely like these changes. I felt like going from Mr. Pandaria to Warlords, it felt familiar. From Warlords to Legion, it felt familiar. Of course, there were always class changes that kept it all exciting and interesting. But overall, it just felt so familiar for me. And this time going from Legion into BFA, it feels different. I can't exactly say exactly what it feels different, but I want to say the whole expansion and overall all the different things they're doing from Legion, I would say kind of just feeds into my experience. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I would love to see some of you guys' thoughts on your opinions, especially the people that have been playing on BFA beta. And maybe somebody been playing in alpha. Are you of the similar opinion as me, or does the game feel just about the same to you? Also, let me know what class you're playing, so maybe that might kind of feed into that. Everybody else who doesn't play BFA beta, hopefully they gave you guys a little bit of an idea of how I feel about it. And one thing you should get out of it is there's a lot of changes, and you definitely should be excited about changes, because if you're somebody who likes changes, who likes new things, who likes new ideas, I feel like what BFA is doing for the most part makes me want to play it more than Legion, and if anything, that should probably be a good thing. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you want me to cover, if anything in particular, in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see all of you in another video.